I suppose it depends which bits you pick out of this IMF
As ever.
report, because the good news, the UK is set to be the second fastest growing of the world's most advanced economies. But hold the champagne, because the IMF also predicts the UK is going to face the highest rate of inflation in the G7, both this year and next, because we've got rising energy and utility bills. So, as Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, prepares her budget next month, what will she be thinking, Kevin?
Oh, no. I think it's...
Am I still in charge of the economy?
It's only a couple of weeks ago that she found out she had an extra £2 to £3 billion because of the way, I think it was VAT was calculated. But no, it's tough. She had a tough inheritance. We mustn't forget that. Whether you go back to the financial collapse, you go to austerity, you go to Brexit, you go to Putin's straw Truss, and it's not rosy. Although I will just say, because that average wages are still rising faster than inflation. Figures yesterday showed 4.8% average wages, while inflation is 3.8%.
So
no, I just
anyone
point out,
not in the public sector, the wage growth is now cooling off, whereas it's the public sector.
But for a long time, wages in the private sector have been rising faster than those in the public. I just point out, but no, it's really difficult. And she's now today conceding that taxes are likely to go up. We don't know which taxes and on whom, and public spending may be cut back, but we don't know where and on what.
Andrew, can you see any good news here?
Well, the inflation is terrible, and the IMF is worried about our inflation, and inflation directly impacts every viewer watching this programme this morning. Food inflation, we know, is already close to 5%. It's over 5%, and predictions it will be at 6% by Christmas. That's going to really hurt families, and the IMF has no cheer for families in that inflation projection. And bad again next year. And partly, they say, it's because of some policies, decisions taken by the government.
Including the employers' national insurance
Absolutely, rising that has pushed up inflation.
Which gets passed on.
Well, of course, because employers pass on the costs so they can get some of it back.
But the big hit on inflation is on lower income families, because food is going up more than 5%. So that's that 3.8% figure. We get a new inflation figure, I think it's next week. I'm always wary when Martin's sitting there.
Martin's watching like a hawk.
I know, but it does make me wary. I think we get a new inflation figure next week. So that it's disproportionate at the moment on lower income families, because you spend a larger proportion of your income on food.
Yeah, the problem with any of these statistics, and certainly the problem with inflation, is when you talk about 3.6% this year and 2.5% next year, it sounds high, but it doesn't sound too high. But inflation is a cumulative measure. So that is 3% this year, on top of all those rises, including 11% that we had 2 or 3 years ago. So when we talk about inflation, inflation is a measure of acceleration, not speed. We are driven very, very fast, and we may not be continuing to accelerate as much as before, but our prices are going up on top of already the huge heights that we've had.
Yes, all of those price rises are then baked in.
They're baked in, and so 2.5% next year sounds better than 3.6% this year, but that's 2.5% on top of the 3.6% this year, so prices will be even higher. And that's the thing that psychologically and financially is incredibly damaging to families. You go in, you buy something in the supermarket, you're feeding your children, and you just go, it can't be that expensive. And it is.
Yeah, if people think back, those of us who are older, and you think back, you'll remember really tough times. There were some, you go back to 1988, when mortgages and interest rates soared. But the truth is, the economy has really suffered its terrible, prolonged squeeze since about 2008. If we could get back to old growth figures and improvement in wages and rising living standards, we'd all be a lot wealthier. But nobody has yet broken this cycle. It's almost a doom loop.
But let's be really honest. We have been lied to for 20 years by politicians of all parties that they can cut taxes and increase public spending. They can't. And therefore, they do it for electoral reasons, but ultimately it breaks the long-term fabric of the economy in this country. Now, this government didn't need to promise. The truth is there are 4 big taxes. You've got income tax, national insurance and VAT. Those are the three taxes that matter. If you're going to have to put taxes up, you want to put them all up a little bit. That's the truth of it. That's about what we had is because we had an electoral promise that says you can't put income tax up, you can't put VAT up, and therefore, I'll make sure I put my fingers the right way around.
I was going to say,
and therefore,
are you making a rather pointed political
You've only got
point here?
national insurance, and you could only deal with half of national insurance, so you had to put that up by more than you would have done everything. It was our electoral system that means that promise was needed because they match each other, has locked the government into a straitjacket, made it unable to deal with anything that it can do at the moment, and we're all suffering. And actually what we need, and this isn't a specific party point, is we need some more honesty from our politicians, including in the run-up to elections. But we don't get it, and we're all paying for it.
And one of the reasons you don't get it is people want to be told they're going to get tax cuts.
Yeah.
They don't want to be told they're going to get tax rises.
Yeah, but sorry, but when in the last 10 years has anyone had a tax cut? I mean, taxes are at their highest rate, for
the Tories
50
cut
years.
national insurance a couple of times under Rishi, but got no benefit at the ballot box. And partly those national insurance cuts were to trap the next lot.
And national insurance for employers went up.
It did.
And also the tax bans have stayed frozen, which means the income tax bans, which means that effectively everyone's paying more tax as wages rise.
I'm looking at him again, but...
And that's dragging teachers and nurses and doctors into higher tax
The hilarity
bands.
about where we are right now is...
There's no hilarity.
No, there is, because one of the things that's going to happen in the budget, almost certainly, is they're going to extend the fiscal drag, the freezing of the tax barriers, which means as your wages go up and inflation goes up, the barriers stay the same. So as you're above, you're effectively paying more tax. They're going to extend that to 29.30, because that will help them balance the books, even though this government, almost certainly, there will be a new government and we will have had a general election by then. So we're now, and part of this is the way we work with the Office for Budget Responsibility that marks the homework of the government based on predictions, and all predictions and forecasts are false, based on predictions of the future. We're now going to try and balance our books by this artificial, we're going to keep fiscal drag going longer, even though it may well not be this government's decision. The whole thing starts to look slightly farcical.
The Chancellor inherited that from the last government, but will sustain it.
You can make a choice about it, though.
And I know, but I'm just having some context, so it's not all on her.
My point is it will go forward in the future, even though it's not real that this government may even be in power in the future, and that will help balance the books. And I think part of it is that the Office for Budget Responsibility, which does a good job, has now become as if it is absolutely right as everything that's going to happen over the next 5 years. Now, anyone who's worked in business or economics knows forecasts are just that. They're forecasts. But we now have to run our economy by the forecasts of a group of individuals who may well be wrong, not because they're bad, just because nobody can forecast perfectly. I think there's a lot of structural change needed to get things right.
One of the proposals, of course, last year was that you could cut welfare spending, Andrew, and so they decided that you could fill this £40 billion black hole by cutting winter fuel allowance. Of course, that provoked huge public outcry, and they had to reverse or partially reverse on the winter fuel allowance. What we understand now from the figures that have been provided to this programme is that, of course, wherever there is a claim or people are entitled to money, scammers move in. And, you know, in the last week of September, the winter fuel scams exploded by 153%. It's absolutely shocking. And we heard in our report that somebody who said that she has told her mum never reply to a scam, never click on something, herself fell victim to it. Martin, you are the, I would say, world expert on scams. So,
because I'm in so many of them.
One of the things that the government told us this morning was you do not need to claim the winter fuel allowance. Of course, there is a tiny exception, isn't there, that you wanted to point out?
My big message to everyone is you don't need to claim winter fuel allowance if you've had it before, if you're a pensioner, if you've had any benefits. There is a very, very small area where if you're just starting to get of state pension age, you've never had a pension payment before, you've never had benefits, then you may need to claim, and you will do that via the gov.uk website.
Not via a text and a link.
No, and the rule that applies to all of these things, the most important thing you should always do, whenever anyone sends you a message, even if you think it's legitimate, never use the phone number they have given you, never click the link they have given you, go and find your own independent source, go and use a reputable search engine, make sure it's the right site, and click through. And any organisation worth its salt, if it is messaging individuals to take action, will have prominently on their web page where you can go directly yourself and you can click and do the same thing. That's the most important safety precaution. Don't click links. Don't use phone numbers other people have given you. Always go and independently check them yourself.
But there was a time you either had to be contacted by the post or somebody would ring you up, but now you can be bombarded online with text messages.
Well, it's interesting.
Or you go on websites. Is the only way we're going to get a grip of this is to make the web providers, your Googles or whoever else, to actually police what they put on their sites.
And your phone provider. How are these scam texts getting through?
They can take down Premier League football footage very quickly under threats of legal action. So why can't they take pictures of Martin supposedly selling something he isn't?
The Online Safety Act, which I lobbied to get scam adverts in, and it was a hard fight, it will be coming online for scam adverts in 2027, so that Ofcom will then be able to find people. It's taken about 8 years too long. I sued Facebook
still another 2
in 2019,
years.
and even then, it will only be the big firms that are being policed on the back of it. You cannot trust most things that's going on. Interestingly, we're in the middle of the consultation. We're talking later about car finance reclaiming. One of the big things my teams and I are doing work on is these firms will have to contact you so you can opt in or opt out. How do we make that scam-proof? Yeah. That's what we're looking at. That's 14 million arrangements. I mean, this is... I'm not going to say some of the things I'm suggesting at the moment because I don't want the scammers to be proactive about different ways that we can work to make sure people realise they're going through legitimate sources. I'm not going to give their personal data away. And millions may miss out because they're scared, and we have this so often. They think the real communicator... I had a video I put online the other day and people were saying it was a scam. And I wanted to say, but there's no call to action in it. I'm not asking you to do anything. It was a legit video. We're now at that point where there are so many scams out there, people can't delineate between what's real and what isn't.
What happens to the scammers? Do they ever get caught and prosecuted?
Some do. They're international organised crime. I mean, we call them scammers. These are vicious, organised crime gangsters set around the world stealing money off vulnerable people. They do it with impunity. Well, I mean, just to give you an example of how bad it is. So Elon Musk and I are the most scam-faced in the countries, generally. It's me and him in terms of the league tables. I once did a video on here, I think it might have been this morning, about scams, and they then took that as the AI film they made, the basis of the AI film, to scam people. It was their way of I almost stuck a finger up before, sticking a finger up at me and saying, we're even going to take you talking about don't fall for scammers, I'm going to turn that into a scam video. Yeah. I mean, they're doing it with impunity.
Amazing.
Meanwhile, nearly a third of secondary school pupils say they cannot tell whether artificial intelligence content is true. I wonder whether adults find it hard to tell if AI content is true. You do have to double-check. I don't know about you, Andrew. You a great fan of ChatGPT?
No, never used it.
No, you see, I think sometimes there's a benefit in being sort of...
A Luddite. That's the word.
A little old-fashioned in your method.
Actually, the Luddites weren't all bad. They only smashed the machines of the bad owners. I think they've been given a bad rap in history. But I know the point you're making.
Let's bring back the Luddites when it comes to AI and online scams.
The machine smashers, if they were smashing the scams, it would be rather wonderful.
Yes.
I've never done it, never tried, and I think better for me.
Yes, right. So we are talking this morning about the fact that Instagram itself has admitted that their content will never be 100% safe for children. But they have brought in new plans, a PG-13 system, which is going to roll out. It's being introduced by Meta, and it will be applied to all material on Instagram's teen accounts. Users aged under 18 will automatically be placed into the 13+ setting, and that will hide or not recommend posts with strong language, risky stunts and content that might encourage harmful behaviours. It'll also block search terms such as alcohol or gore. Andrew, we've got to say...
We do.
The online companies are, it seems, trying to do something.
Finally. It's taking a long time, but I still don't see how you enforce it.
Yes.
I mean, that's the big problem.
Yeah.
How do they know how old the child is? If the child lies about their age, and if the parent goes along with it?
That's, Kevin, lying about your age is the obvious one, isn't it?
Well, look, I mean, there's probably a few 16, 17-year-old teens in the country who don't have fake ID saying they're 18 to get in clubs or wherever.
Exactly.
But But if you have a system, I mean, I think is it right to have a system in principle?
Yes.
I think yes. I think most people would say it, and then attempt to enforce it in the best way you can. But yes, you can't entirely stop somebody logging on with somebody else's details who are over 18. But if you just make it more and more difficult and you chase the problem all the time, you can begin to tackle it, because young kids are being exposed to all sorts of horrific graphic sex, suicide, violence.
It's shocking it's taking so long.
It's destroying childhood. That they are legally obliged to prevent young people seeing harmful content. What they're talking about here is inappropriate content that they're trying to block and filter. So there's the legal obligation under the Old Nine Safety Act, and this is actually the sort of step further of, you know, this is the stuff parents wouldn't want them to see, as opposed to the stuff that is illegal and harmful and damaging that they're trying to go the next step on. It'll never be perfect. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's a start,
but the key question is, do you let your child, and when do you let them use social media, and can you stop them?
Yeah, well, it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue, isn't it? Because they're spending longer and longer on their phones. And often the laws are made by people who didn't grow up in that generation, you know.
Yeah, and hasn't one of the Scandinavian countries just introduced a ban on social media to under the age of 13?
You're going to attempt to do that and try and get round it. I used to always be against, well, just instinctively against bans, but I can just see you're going to require them.
I'm in favour of a curfew. Yeah. Right, I think in the old days when we were growing up as kids, there was the watershed on television. After 9 o'clock, they couldn't show anything. It still exists, but of course, there's so many other different methods. My view is, on messaging especially, but also on social media, we should have a 9 o'clock watershed. Now, of course, it's unenforceable, but this is what they call a friction policy in policy making. If you say that no children should be using social media and messaging after 9 o'clock, what it does is it empowers parents, when their kids are saying, but all my friends are doing it, to go, no, there's a watershed in place, there's a rule that says don't do it after 9 o'clock, and we're going to be following that rules. It's about trying to build in social conventions, but also, you know, whether you give your kids... My daughter is 12, she has a Nokia phone, she doesn't have a smartphone, because we don't want to use... So I shouldn't say Nokia, she has a dumb phone.
Not one connected to the internet.
No, she has the ability to get on social media, not that she does, but when she's at home, but not when she's out and about by herself. Right. And I think society, maybe we have to change that.
Well, some schools have a policy now, don't say they ban phones, but you can't take a smartphone, an internet phone, if you like, but you can take a... whatever brand it is.
Or they put them in these special lock bags that you lock up and you're not allowed to use.
You can ring mum, dad, grandparents, carer, whatever it is, but you can't go on social media.
Now, Andrew, we're going to address content that you might find inappropriate now. And that is that, according to a new book, which The Times this morning is reporting on, Margaret Thatcher, your heroine, to whom you have a shrine in your home...
I do.
He really does.
You've seen it.
She allegedly had 2 extra... Let me tell you, before you censor the content that we are reporting on this morning, allegedly she had 2 extramarital affairs.
When would she have had the time? She famously survived on...
hardly ever slept.
4 hours, 4 hours sleep a day. She worked 7 days a week.
One was early in her career. The other one later is not confirmed.
Tina Gaudouin reveals in her book, The Incidental Feminist, that Thatcher not only enjoyed an extracurricular friendship with a close aide who touched her knee during dinners... Ooh. Is that an affair?
No,
I don't know what that means.
Quite, yeah.
I don't know what that means.
But she also had 2 affairs, one early in her career as an MP and one with another politician. But the author also claims that Dennis Thatcher himself struck up a surprisingly close friendship with the former model Mandy Rice-Davies, one of the main figures in the Profumo affair, after the Thatchers left Downing Street. Well, it all feels... It would rather sully her image, wouldn't it, if any of this were true?
She was a devoted Methodist with a very, very conventional view of marriage. Marriage was for life. No affairs.
It would make her more interesting. Go on, let's be honest.
She's not interesting, Kevin? You think Margaret Thatcher needs to be made more interesting?
And there were always...
She's one of the most towering political figures
there were always
rumours.
There were always rumours about the minister who's named in there, who was one of her Northern Ireland secretaries, Sir Humphrey Atkins. But nobody I've ever spoke to who knew her well thought there was a shred of truth in it.
It was she had 2 children. It said she only had once because there were twins. I mean,
she didn't have... Listen, she didn't have time for all this.
Oh, right, well...
all that funny business.
She was...
Who says it takes that long?
Well, maybe... I bow to your expertise, Martin.
But
it's hilarious.
Well, would you have ever said, though,
yes.
John Major?
Yeah, true.
And Edwina Currie?
Unbelievable.
Would you?
I still find it unbelievable.
That was your
for a decade.
That was your travelling. But no, Mrs T was... She brought that before the war, Victorian
What
view.
would you do if it was
did
proven?
Have affairs, I believe.
What would you do? Would you have to dismantle your shrine, get your cardboard cut out,
so
and
we
burn
have
it?
photographs of your shrine.
Oh, really?
Here.
Let's see.
There it is.
Oh, my word.
It's not at all weird. It's quite very normal.
It is.
It's not a
life-size
image doll or
It's
something.
a life-size cutout. By the way, it's next to a life-size cutout of Dame Joan Collins.
Well, she's still with us, Dame Joan
She's
Collins,
very well.
Of course, yeah.
She was in fine form the other night at the Thatcher dinner to mark the 100th anniversary of her birthday. Joan Collins was one of the speakers.
And was any allusion made to the fact that Margaret Thatcher might have needed to boost her interestingness by having
Were there
an
any
affair?
56-year-old women looking like Margaret Thatcher who could be distant relations that were never,
I don't think she...
the products of these affairs?
I don't think it's suggesting that she had a child out of wedlock.
Oh, we might as well for the next book.
Well, there we go. It's all good publicity, isn't it, if you're trying to sell a book?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you both very much indeed. I think we've come to the end of our time.
I think it's a good time to finish on that one, to be honest. I think we should
come back and haunt
after
you.
Andrew's shrine, we should all be moving swiftly on. Maybe, you know, a swift drink. I'm glad it's just a cup of tea.
When Kevin Maguire came to my house, I locked him in that shrine.
It was pretty spooky.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
that's
weird.
your idea of hell.
At midnight, I played a speech of Margaret Thatcher.
All right, I really think we need to cut this conversation off.
Later on in the programme, we are talking about, Martin, what are your big issues this morning?
Well, the big issue is car finance, the redress scheme that's due to start next year by the regulator. The biggest one since PPI, but it's going to be far easier than PPI. Many people won't have to do anything, although I would argue that you should be doing something, and I'll be talking through that later. So if you have any questions on car finance for selling, I should say also, by the way, motorbikes and camper vans are included. 14 million agreements. Then do get in touch, and I'm going to do a full Q&A of what you need to know and do coming after 8 in the show.
And also, there has been some success on council tax.
Yeah, council tax debt collection, the worst form of debt collection in the country, absolutely destroys people's lives. From missing a payment for a month, you can then have to pay the entire year's money and have bailiffs at your house within 6 weeks. I've been campaigning with my money and mental health charity to stop that. We've partial success in Wales, hopeful success in England. We still need more in Scotland. I'll be talking through all of that as well.
Fantastic. Right, we will see you both after you've dug into the story of the scandal of Margaret Thatcher. And we would say, do not rely on AI sources.
Disgrace.